This is the second last class for this course, and I have divided this lecture into two parts. In part one, we are going to do assessment criteria 3.3, and in the next one, we are going to do 3M1, inshallah. It says explain how people make strategic decisions by using information. That is, the people who are in the organization, the employees, the workers, how they contribute in taking up the long-term decisions. The command verb explain means to make something clear to someone by describing or revealing the relevant information in more detail. Strategic decision making involves using the data, analysis, and structured approaches to make choices that align with an organization's goals and objectives. The main reason to take a decision is also that whatever we are doing or we're going to do, everything must be aligned parallel towards the goals and objectives, mission of the organization. This process is essential for defining an organization's mission, vision, and long and short-term goals, like everything, why you exist, what you think, how you're going to pursue further, and what are your long and short-term goals. All the points are from your indicative content. Using information to define mission and vision. What is actually a mission? It is defining the organization's core purpose and the value it offers to stakeholders. That is why it exists and what you are gonna offer to the people with regardless to stakeholders too. How the information helps? Simply, data on the market needs, consumer expectations, and industry trends shape the mission. What is the latest trend going on? What is the people expecting? You're going to take the stance accordingly. For example, a UK-based eco-friendly packaging SME defines its mission as providing sustainable and affordable packaging solution. Now, this is a word. In the other language, we call it as a slogan, from where the organization is known as. After analyzing market demand for the greener alternatives, that is, the one which are more into the sustainable field. However, the vision is sets the organization's long-term aspirations. That is on which it would be based on. How the information helps, data about the competitors, emerging trends, and future consumer needs guides vision creation. That is what your peers are doing in the industry. We're going to take the motivation from them. Once the motivation is there, then definitely there is a room of creative thinking, that is innovations too. For example, a family-owned organic food SME in London envisions becoming the top organic brand in UK by 2030, driven by the research on increasing consumer preferences for the organic products. So basically, what is the vision? What is demanded by the consumer, you have to make and produce the products and services accordingly. Then we have setting the long and short-term goals. Long-term goals are usually for 3 to 5 years or more, and they're also known as strategic goals as well. For example, a small UK clothing brand aiming to increase its market share by 20% within 5 years, that is what they're expecting. But like an organization only expects, and then the real results are quite different in most of the scenarios. Short-term goals, however, are actionable objectives set for the next 6 to 12 months to support long-term goals, that is for a year or less than a year. For example, launching a seasonal marketing campaign to boost the sales by 10% in the upcoming quarter. That is another 4 months. Like right now, the Christmas sales are live. Then how the information helps? For the internal data, employee capabilities, current financial performance, and operational efficiency. Employee capabilities, that is what their skills, uniqueness, which the organization can take definitely the advantage from. The current financial performance, the status of the organization, regardless of your income statement, balance sheet, and operational efficiency, the funds which we require to make sure that the daily tasks, operations are running smoothly, the daily expenses. However, the external one is industry reports, consumer feedback, and competitor analysis as well. What the industry as a whole is doing, what are the feedbacks from the consumers, are you working on their complaints or not? And then you're comparing your organization with their complaints. For example, a tech SME in Manchester uses sales data and consumer feedback to set a short-term goal of improving its software interface by the next quarter. Again, it's a goal which definitely takes time, but it is less than a year. Then decision-making tools. Organizations use structured tools to enhance the quality of their decisions by evaluating options systematically, that is step by step with the procedure. Logic trees, the first one. Now, these are the graphical representation of the possible outcomes based on the different choices. That is a kind of probability. You have an options and then you go ahead. Like a food delivery, SMA in Birmingham uses a logic tree to decide between expanding to a new range or adding more restaurant partners. Like there is a choice, the best fit, you're gonna get onto it. OODA loop, that is observe, orient, decide, act. Again, every technique is from your indicative content. These are all the decision-making techniques. Now, a decision-making cycle focused on the rapid iteration and adjustment based on the feedback. Feedback from whom? From the consumers. The first thing is the observe, O. Gather the data about the situation. What was the scenario? You need to first grab the data. Then orient, analyze the information step by step through the process. Decide, select the best course of action, which is the best option to proceed further. Act, implement the decision, and monitor the outcomes. You're going to take the decision, but you need to get the feedback too. For example, a courier SME in the UK uses the OODA loop to respond to delivery delays caused by the weather, adjusting routes in real time as well. Just like we have flight delays. Decision metrics, however, again another technique, a table that compares options based on the weighted criteria, that is cost, time, risk. Priority based. The first one is going to be the most important one, and you need to opt for it. And then the steps goes on. For example, a retail SME uses a decision matrix to select between three marketing strategies based on the cost effectiveness, reach, and alignment with the brand goals. Every organization decision matrix varies from one another. Few people, they focus on the quality rather than the quantity, and few goes on the cost rather than the risk. Number 4, step-by-step strategic decision-making process. How do we take it? The first thing is obviously defining the problem, the issue, the area of problematic. Clearly identify the challenge or opportunity. First, you need to see what is the problem and then what is the next best alternative. That is what the definition of an opportunity is. For example, a local bakery in Edinburgh faces declining consumer footfall and defines the problem as insufficient brand visibility. This is the crux of the issue, that is, there is a less work on the brand visibility. Then number 2 is gather information. Collect internal and external data to understand the problem's root cause. Why it happened, what was a triggering cause which made up the problem. Internal data, sales trend, employee feedback. Was the sale increasing, decreasing, or static? Employee feedback from the workers. External data, consumer surveys, competitor marketing strategies, both. You need to ask questions in the form of interviews or questionnaires, and then you are going to get that what exactly the problem was from the consumer side. Then competitor marketing strategies, what strategies they are using to be best in the industry. For example, the bakery analyzes consumer feedback and discovers a preference for healthier options like gluten-free products, like keto-free options too. Step number 3 is brainstorm multiple solutions to the problem. Problem can be one, but the solutions to it, they could be as much as possible because you need to apply the solutions and then see the output too. For example, the bakery identifies 3 options: launch the gluten-free products, partner with the local gym for the promotions, invest in the social media advertisement. You must have seen that in the gyms, there is always the promotions. I mean, the products going on in the sense of keto-free friendly diet, protein powders, and the medicines to shed up the weight and gain weight as well. They all brands are sponsored by the specific organizations, and then they have partnership going on. Then we have evaluate options. Assess each option based on feasibility, cost, and potential impact. Once you get the option, like in the above slide, there were 3 options proposed. First, you're going to see which one is suitable for you, then what is going to be the cost of it, regardless of the profit, and potential impact. What will be the impact by the organization, and then from the consumer side. For example, the bakery uses a decision matrix to weigh the benefits and the risk of each option, that is the priority-based method. Gluten-free products rank highest due to the market demand and minimal investment requirements. Definitely, they were able to know it through the consumer response, questionnaires, and surveys. Then number 5 is choose and take action. Select the best solution and implement it effectively. The one which is the best one, you need to opt for it. For example, the bakery introduces a line of gluten-free products and runs a small advertisement campaign highlighting the new offering. Promotions going on, sometimes discount coupons too. Okay. So till here, I think the assessment criteria 3.3 is going to be clear to all of you. Real life example for a UK SME, that is Green Tech Solutions. Background is that this SME specializing in the renewable energy needed to decide whether to expand its services to the rural areas or not. Definitely, it was based in the UK, but they want to expand their service into different parts of it. Steps taken. The first step was obviously defining of the problem, limited market share in the urban areas due to intense competition. Green Tech Solution was not only one, there were other plenty of organizations working in the same field. Gathered information, conducted market research showing high demand for the solar installations in rural ranges with the government subsidies, that is, the grants given by the government to the producers so that they should not surpass the cost to the consumers. This is the definition of subsidies. And this is what the analysis of the information is so far. When developing the options, least three, you can go for five while attempting the assignment. Option 1, 2, 3 says focus solely on the urban marketing. That is, your marketing campaign must be so strong that you're able to regain first the urban market. Then expand to rural areas slowly and gradually. Mostly the rural areas do not have the internet, but this is obviously a developed country. So they do have it, but we need to give the access. Option number three, partner with the local electricians to serve both urban and rural markets. Definitely, we are going to have a nice partnership. Everything would be sorted about the money, and then we can go ahead. Evaluative options use a decision matrix to weigh the cost, potential revenue, and risk that is priority based 1, 2, 3. Then expansion to the rural areas scored highest due to low competition and strong demand. Highest due to low competition. Obviously, the SMEs or even the big organization, they did not target the rural areas. They were giving their services in the urban areas. So definitely you can get the benefit out of it. Chosen take action, Green Tech invested in the rural outreach, resulting in a 30% increase in the revenue within 2 years. Why information is critical in strategic decision making? That is the grasp of the information, whether it is on the external basis, whether it is on the external basis, it's qualitative, quantitative, authentic, primary, secondary. First thing is obviously the reduces uncertainty. That is also known as ceteris paribus. It provides clarity on the market conditions and risk. You are clear, your vision is clear, you know what steps you need to take the next. Enhances objectivity, data-driven decisions reduces the biasness and resilience or the reliance on the intuition. You are sure about that what steps you're going to take, you have already done the research perfectly. Improves efficiency. Structured tools like logic trees and the probability to, and decision matrices streamline the decision-making process. You have the options, you can choose from it. Strategic decisions are rooted in accurate and relevant information. That is, according to the information, you shape up the strategies. By defining the mission and the vision, setting the goals using decision-making tools, and following a structured process, businesses ensure their strategies align with long-term objectives of the organization. So every step, every decision you are taking, you're gonna getting into the partnership discussion, it leads towards board the goals and the long-term strategic goals of the organization. SMEs in the UK, like Green Tech Solutions and the local bakeries, illustrate how using data effectively can lead to impactful and sustainable decisions, which are prolonged for the future generations. Another example by the Greenleaf Cafe, a UK-based SME. Greenleaf Cafe is a small eco-friendly cafe chain in Manchester specializing in the plant-based meals. The cafe experienced a decline in consumer visit post-pandemic due to increased competition and changes in the consumer behavior. Now they have illustrated the problem as well in their market line too. The management team needed to make a strategic decision on how to regain the market share and drive the growth. So let's see how do we read the scenario in context of assessment criteria 3.3. Step one is obviously defining the problem, that is declining consumer footfall and reduced revenue, two issues. Feedback from the employees indicated competition from the new vegan-friendly chains. Consumer surveys revealed growing interest in online ordering and meal subscriptions. That is problem of many of the organizations nowadays. Then gathering the information. Sales record from the internal data, we have to do the gather information from the two aspects, internal, external, both. From internal, it states sales record showed a 15% decrease in dine-in orders over 6 months. So it was not for 1 month, 2 months, it was paid for 6 months. Employee feedback highlighted inefficiencies in delivery of operation. That is, maybe the customer service was not nice, or the order was not the one which the consumers were placing up. However, the external data, market research showed a 25% increase in demand for the meal subscription services in Manchester. Like we do get the membership cards too. Competitor analysis revealed competitors offering delivery discounts and subscription options. Sometimes the coupon card, sometimes uh, like different days have different offers going on in the restaurants. Develop options. Management brainstormed three potential solutions. First is obviously introducing a plan-based meal subscription service, so that the people who are going to the competitors for this thing, they can avail the service from the Greenleaf Cafe too. Partner with the local delivery platforms like Delivery for the better reach. You can definitely, like in Pakistan, um, have a partnership with Food Panda, and in UK we have Deliveroo, and like every country, they have their own services. Launch promotional campaigns offering discounts to attract dine-in consumers too. Like if you're going to take away, you're going to get more discounts. If you're going to get dine-in, you're going to get some other kind of discount. Evaluating the options used a decision matrix to evaluate each option based on key criteria. Again, the priority based one, cost. Subscription service required an upfront investment in packaging and logistics. Obviously, you need an investment, that is, you're going to use your retail earnings, and then you can spend on these things. First, the packaging and the logistics, the supply chain, complete road of it. Consumer impact, high demand for delivery and subscription services made option one and two more favorable. That is, you're going to opt for it because of the reason, the demand. Then feasibility, partnering with the delivery platforms, that is for the option two, was the easiest to implement quickly, the delivery one. So choosing and taking the action, the team decided to combine option one and two both. That is, where are you, the options? Yeah. The team conducted to combine option one and two, introduce a plan-based meal subscription service for the regular consumers, partner with the delivery to ensure the fast delivery. Results. That is the impact feedback. Short-term impact, within 3 months, subscription signs up contributed to 20% revenue increase, which we were not able to surpass within the past 6 months. Long-term impact, the partnership with Deliveroo brought a 35% growth in online orders, compensating for the declining dining sales. So the decrease, the decrement which we had for the past 6 months, it was filled within a few time up to 35%. Consumer feedback, consumers appreciated the convenience of the meal subscriptions and delivery, boosting the loyalty. That is, now they're not going to go to another brand. So key takeaways from the Greenleaf Cafe strategic decision is problem clarity. These are the points which you can mention in your work as well. Clearly defining the problem ensured targeted effort. You're going to first pick up the problem and then you're going to work on it. Data-driven approach using market research and internal data led to informed decision. Use of decision tools, the decision matrix helped the cafe weigh its option objectively due to this technique that was for information. Consumer-centric focus, adapting to consumer preferences, delivery, and subscription ensured relevance and profitability. So this example demonstrated how SMEs in the UK can leverage information and structured decision-making processes to address challenges and grow sustainability. So that is it. The 3M1 part that says analyze how the senior managers can use the information to positively influence their teams in support of the decision. How the senior managers, the MDs, the directors, the one which are above from the employees, they help you out in taking things positively in a positive way and to connect the teams together so that the decision making gets really stronger for us. So this is what the question means. Imad, Parisha, Rosanna, Amin, 4 people joined. The command verb analyze, like in short, if I explain you that what actually the command verb analyze means, and this applies to every course, unit, and to all levels, whether you are from level 3, 4, 5, 7, it is to define the terms which are in your indicative content. Once you do this, then you jump to the positive and negative aspect. With that, you go for the importance, significance, and if you want at the end, any topic, any of the point which you think is related to any of the researcher, theorist, um, case study, article, you can always give a link or reference to them, and at the end, a conclusion paragraph. This is how you attempt this command verb. And the last part, that is reference to current research or theory may support the analysis. This applies to the command verb evaluate as well. So the same scenario is for both of the command verbs. Senior managers play a critical role in ensuring their teams align with the organization's goals and objectives. Obviously, if their goals are not aligned with the objectives and goals of the organization, then why you call yourself a senior manager too? There is no room for you. To do this effectively, they rely on information to make evidence-based decision. That is, you have logic, you have proof, and then you work on it. Influence their teams positively and guide their organization towards success. And honestly, if your managers are quite keen, motivated, not clean, it is keen, they have the motivation attempts, then definitely the organization grows as well. And as an employee too, your growth goes on. You're not stuck. The first point is evidence-based mission and objectives. The mission defines the organization's purpose, while objectives are specific, measurable, that support the mission. In short, the objectives are according to the technique called SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And your mission is always the purpose, why you exist. Evidence-based mission and objectives are those developed using accurate and reliable data to ensure alignment with the market needs, consumer expectations, and operational capabilities. Obviously, even if an organization is there in an industry, there is a purpose of it, and it is demanded by the consumer, only then you are there. How senior managers use this information? The first is obviously the market research. Analyze the consumer behavior, what they want, their needs, their wants, their expectations, the trends of the industry, the competitive performance, which is again just like you, but in the same industry, to set realistic objectives. And even the objectives should be realistic. They should not be fake, but the one which people think how you can achieve it. Yes, everybody can do whatever they want to. Realistic objectives, that is the one which you can achieve, and they are accepted in all terms. For example, a Canadian SME in the food industry, such as local organic cafe, uses customer service and sales data to focus its mission on providing sustainable and healthy meal option. Now, not every organization, every cafe, restaurant, they serve you what is exactly going on. Like Subway was a brand, still did, but just like that, recently another student, basically, they opened substation. So again, it's getting really famous at the moment. Employee alignment, share evidence-based objectives with the teams to foster understanding and motivation. That is, again, if you want to do a change, make a change, then you need to have proof for it. For example, a regional IT consulting firm in Toronto communicates its goals of increasing client retention by 15% backed by the data showing client dissatisfaction with the response times. Now, there is a problem going on. And just if you're talking generally without the ratios, percentiles, evidence, that there is no point or there is no weight of your justifications and judgment. Transparency in decision making, opaqueness, translucent things. Leaders who use data-driven decisions build trust with the teams, encouraging collaborations. For example, a small manufacturing firm in Vancouver demonstrates how reducing energy waste aligns with its mission of sustainability, because it was one of their goals. But if they're not able to do it, then you failed it. Importance, the significance, helps employees see the why, that is, why it exists, why, like the question why, behind organizational goals. You make goals, like every person make goals and objectives in their lives as well, which they want to achieve. Few people are living in their goals, few people are trying hard to achieve those goals, but there is a reason why you're doing it, because there is a goal. Increases commitment to achieving the objectives, and definitely you get motivated, you go into the networking field and so on. Builds credibility for the senior managers as well. There is a way for your side too. Number two, informed regular business reporting and action based on the evidence. That is, regular business reporting involves collection of the information, analyzing, that is doing the analysis on it, and presenting the data on the key performance indicators, KPI, to make informed decision. That is a technique on which we score the rating of the employees, whether they are motivated enough, at what stance they're standing. Evidence-based actions are those that rely on the data rather than the intuition. That is not the feeling and everything, the gut thing. It's all about the factual information. How senior managers uses this information, number 2 heading. First, till slide number 8, we did point number 1, now it's 2. First is the tracking progress. Use regular reports to monitor team performance and identify the areas for the improvement. Definitely you can take and make the actions once you monitor it. You're watching it, and then you can see if it's up to date or not, you want to change or do slight changes in it. For example, a logistic SME in Montreal uses weekly dashboards to track delivery efficiency and reduces the delays. Just to be sure, just to be efficient, data-driven feedback provide constructive feedback to teams based on the performance metrics. Just like the KPI, we have this too. For example, a marketing agency in Calgary uses analytics to show the content targeting younger demographics is driving higher engagement. Now, they did not dignify any age. They just said younger demographics. It could be male, female, and the teenager. Encouraging the team to focus more on this segment, that is the set group, younger demographics. Proactive problem solving, we're not just talking and blabbing. You're taking the measures to address challenges as they arise by acting on real-time data. For example, a small software development company in Ottawa notices delays in project delivery and reallocates resources based on workload data. When you are in an organization, you are under a project, a commitment, you have to work on the factors of production, FOPs. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So you need, if there is an agency, you want to shift any resource from one project to another, so you can do that too. Significance enhances accountability and productivity. That is, you're accountable of your acts, and definitely you're going to be efficient, productive too. Empower teams by ensuring actions are supported by the facts. Everything is factual, based on the evidence. Improves decision-making accuracy. When you are faithful, you know the true grounds and facts, then definitely the decisions are going to be accurate and the results are also going to be phenomenal. Number 3, personal objectives align with the wider business objectives. Now, they are the individual goals set for the employees that align with the broader goals of the organization, ensuring every team member contributes to overall success. And this is really important. When an organization is into existence, not the owner is going to be responsible for its success. The people who are associated with it, they too have a part in it. How senior managers uses this information? First is obviously setting up the goals of the individuals. Tailor the personal objectives based on employee strengths, weaknesses, and career aspiration, what they really want to achieve in their life. And then you can even give them the workshops or trainings. For example, a small accounting firm in Edmonton assigns a junior accountant the goal of automating data entry processes, aligning with the firm's objective to improve operational efficiency. Performance reviews use data from the employee performance evaluations to identify areas for the growth and create development plans. Once you are going to work on their strengths and weaknesses, then it's quite easy to work further. For example, a tech SME in Vancouver identifies a software engineer excellent in client-facing tasks and transitions them to a project management role. So 2 things and making and combining it to one. Motivation through recognition, rewards, certifications, recognize and reward employees who achieve their objectives, reinforcing alignment with the business goals. That is, there is always the room of reinforcement. When you reward someone, they perform, they act well. For example, a boutique fashion brand in Montreal awards bonuses to sales staff exceeding the target, supporting the goal of increasing revenue. And they work really hard then. Importance, significance ensures individual contributions are meaningful and impactful because an organization is not run by only the goals and objectives, the mission statement, the budgeting. It is the effort by the employees too. Boost employee morale and engagement, they feel important because the significance is given to them. And then we're judging them, that is doing the corrections on them through the KPI indicators, aligns personal growth with the success of the organization too. Examples of senior managers using the information in Canadian SMEs, Green Tech Solutions in Toronto. Scenarios: Green Tech, a renewable energy SME, aim to reduce the operational cost, the expenses, while improving the client satisfaction. This rate must not be hindered at all. Actions taken using the customer feedback to identify the dissatisfaction with the response times by the consumer side. Implemented software to track response metrics and provide regular reports, that is check and balance. Set individual goals for the employees to improve resolution times by 20%. What was the outcome? Simple. Client retention increased by 15%, and employees felt empowered by clear data driven objectives. You perform well when the goals are already given to you. The set targets are given to you, you only need to implement them and have a proper check and balance on it. Maplewood Bakery in the Montreal. Maplewood, a small family-owned bakery, wanted to introduce gluten-free options. Now, what they did, analyzed consumer purchase trends and conducted a survey to gauge the demand to see whether it is going to be a huge success or not. Developed a plan to train staff on the gluten-free baking, aligning individual training goals with the business objectives, because we cannot forget this at all. Outcome: increased sales by 25% and gained loyal consumers in the gluten-free market. So, strengths and weaknesses of using information for the influence. Strengths and weaknesses, the good points are: strength enhances the trust and credibility in the leadership. No matter what the leadership style is, the structure of the organization is the trust and credibility can take you quite far beyond. Aligns organizational and individual objectives both side by side with the parallel ground. You have to give the importance to objectives of the organization and your own self to the individual goals. Improves decision making and team collaboration. When you do, when we do the discussion, there is a team, there is an out. Empowers team with the clear measurable goals, because one reason is we are measuring them through the KPI indicators. Then we are giving them the authority to help in the decision making. However, time intensive to collect and analyze data. The most realistic weakness is that it is quite time intensified. It requires investment, that upfront investments in data tools and training, and even the techniques too. It's not free. Not everybody can even perform it if you really want to get the accurate results. Over reliance on data may reduce innovation. You're getting the data from where? The secondary resources most of the time, and only few from the primary sources, so it hinders the innovation aspect. Uniqueness. Benchmarking. Resistance from the employees unfamiliar with the data-driven methods, the one which we're using from the traditional ways. Judgment. Senior managers who use the data and evidence to influence their team foster the trust, engagement, and alignment with the organizational objectives. However, the challenges like resource intensity exist, that there is a problem of the factors of reduction. The benefits of clear communication, it is not a weakness, a challenge, but it's true when you give more autonomy to the workers, the subordinate, things do get really difficult at the end. Informed decision making and employee empowerment would outweigh the drawbacks. So, yes, problems do exist, but the strengths are quite a lot. Conclusion: the effective use of information allows senior managers to align their teams with organizational goals, improve performance, and drive success too. Through the evidence-based mission, informed reporting, and aligning personal and business objectives, these were the 3 points which we did in depth. Canadian SMEs like Green Tech Solutions and Maplewood Bakery illustrate the power of data-driven leadership. By combining analytical tools with human empathy, that is, we're using the techniques as well, and the sense and the credibility from the human side, the senior managers can create a motivated and high-performing workforce, ensuring long-term growth and success. And this is the reason why the brands are still existing today, which were running from since 90s. So we are done with the lecture. Now coming towards the example, and then that is it.